We'll get those recordings set up, sounds like.
GM friends, good morning.
Hey, GM sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. The one thing I will say is I don't have the Miro board. That hasn't been dropped yet by Hardcore. So, plus I've never done this before, so bear with me.
Right on.
Let me just check to see if he's posted. Yeah, Hardcore was going to give it a shot today with hosting, but I don't see him. So I'll be up here until he comes here and just kind of help. I guess we can just start and go through the active proposals. I don't need him to do that. I should share a screen probably, right?
Yeah, that'd be great. And so today it looks like the agenda from what I saw was we'll go through the active proposals and maybe talk a little bit about the DAO media proposal that just passed, that just didn't pass. And then I know it sounds like we have a presentation from someone today. Was it Origin Protocol?
Yes, I believe it's supposed to be Origin.
Okay. Let's try to get through all of our DAO specific stuff, and then we'll bring them in at the end, if that's okay with everyone. As we do, sounds like we have quite a bit to go through.
Yeah, I also want to take a little time to talk about Aavegotchi's presence at Consensus coming up at the end of April, but we can do that later. In terms of proposals, yeah, this is a little weird because I have to share my laptop screen, but also show it on my desktop. So just bear with me for a second. Okay, so we're seeing my laptop screen now. Yep. Okay, so there's actually no active proposals at this point. Everything is closed. We just had the closing of the vote for, where are we going? Creating the DAO dashboard, the data dashboard that was last week. The Gotchi Lodge 2023 budget revision, that did pass. So that will be moving to core prop hopefully this week, correct, Coder?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that passed. Let's just check out the voting number real quick. Yep, 10 million for, 2.9 million against, so a 77 to 22% difference. Let's see. Next one that was up after the budget revision was the DAO media team funding, which narrowly failed. 50% for ceasing the funding and 49.79% for funding. So this will not be passing and moving to core prop. So in terms of active proposals, that's it. I know we did have this week, Al did bring forward a thread in the forum post about the kinship burn. I don't know if we want to speak about that now or if we should jump into the Origin thing if they're in the house.
I mean, I would rather wait. Let's go through all of our native. I think for these kind of calls, it makes sense to spend the lion's share of the time on our protocol native things. Unless like they have to do it right now, but if they're okay to wait, if they're even in the house until we've gone through any of our protocol specific stuff, that would be my preference. But I mean, we're flexible, but we do. It seems like we do have quite a bit. If Al or any of the people talking about the Alchemica channel or Thrivecoin or Forge 2.0 proposal, I do see quite a bit of things related to our core things that we could go over.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just invited Hardcore up because he actually wanted to give it a shot, giving a full presentation today. So I don't know if he's able to actually jump up.
Dr. Whammy requested.
Yeah, I just gave him permission. Let me just change this to this. We have a
Slagathor, the Mammoth King. Could we get basically an estimate of how much time your proposal presentation will take? As far as the consensus media budget, we were just literally talking about this. It's it's probably better if we don't have new stuff like mentioned on these calls. It just seems like it's better to have them written out first, and then people can give their initial perspectives on it, and then we have a call about it. Because otherwise, we're bringing up kind of completely new business when we have a lot of old business to go over. What do you guys think of that? Unless it's like a proposal from someone like, OUSD. But even in that case, I think we've also been talking about that for several weeks now. It makes sense to bring them on.
Yeah, with the consensus, I want to speak about it just because I was contacted by Lost Local to put together a media proposal. So I've done that. I haven't submitted it yet. I want to actually just present my estimates for budget and then get feedback from the DAO since it is less than a month away. And we would need to move on funding pretty quickly. But I'm fine deferring because it's not my initiative, other than just being asked to kind of, I guess, make a bid.
I just think it would help to have some stuff written down first that people could be responding to in the call, rather than having like an initial call and then going over all the details there. Because there's been some feedback that people don't, not everyone listens to these calls, and it is better just to have things written down first. And then the calls can be used for more like feedback and discussion rather than like initial proposals on stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. I actually have something written, but at this point, I'm not going to push. It's not worth the effort for me.
Yeah, but you can post it in the forum, and then we could
I'll
talk about it on next week's call.
Yeah, that's fine. So I guess like we just looked at these proposals. Sorry, I'm just trying to also get it up on the live stream because these are two different things happening right now. Hardcore, are you able to get up? Because I wasn't able to see that.
Real quick, I'm going to give a quick update on since we have PC business. Well, I guess if Hardcore is he going to be coming up? We can wait until he's finished with his old business. Or if we're ready to move on, I'll give a quick update on what Pixelcraft's working on. Hands raised. Okay.
I did accept him, but let's see. Yeah, the invite has been sent to Hardcore, but we're just waiting on him to, I guess, click it. Okay.
We don't have too much, so I'll be pretty quick. So one of the things we're currently working on is we're redoing the way that XP is going to be sent out in the future. Ideally, I would like to start with current proposals, but I want to kind of see what people think of this. But currently, what we're doing is taking using the snapshot of the gotchis in your wallet at the moment that we send out the XP, and rather than doing it using the snapshot of the actual snapshot proposal. So if there's a lag time between when the proposal is voted on and when the XP gets sent out, there could be some gotchis exchanged between that time. And so it's a bit weird if it goes on too long and there's too much of a delay, because you wouldn't have the gotchis you thought you were going to have. So what we're probably going to do is this won't be a retroactive thing. It'll be starting from most likely core prop AGIP 70. And so everything from 70 and beyond are going to be sent out via a Merkle claiming system, where we're not going to push you the XP. You're going to be able to claim it for your gotchis using a Merkle tree. So it's actually pretty neat. And that's just going to save us a lot of bandwidth and make the XP claiming process actually a lot simpler for people. So we'll have an official announcement about that coming up probably this week. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up that starting from AGIP 70, the XP will be claimed in a different way. So it shouldn't really affect any like the Forge or Orient Vault. It'll just be more for the process of how you claim your XP. It'll actually feel more like an airdrop. You'll be getting these like XP airdrops that you can go and claim, just like you did for the H1 background and things like that. So yeah, we'll have more information on that coming next week. Other than that, we are going to be, now that a lot of the curve stuff has finished, we'll start working on, we have some ideas. Well, we have to start working on Gotchi chain, obviously, which isn't really DAO, but is very important. And then I'd love to see some movement from either Pixelcraft or the DAO on the next iteration of on-chain governance. We really need to start moving on that pretty soon. So that's one of our focal point. Now that the curve is turned off, we're going to start moving towards putting in some effort on-chain governance. Two questions on that. Mikey J says, do I get refunded? No, you're not going to get refunded for the XP gas. It's not going to be a lot, though. And there will be a batch claim for all gotchis. What you can actually do is you can actually claim XP for other people's gotchis. Anyone can claim the XP for anyone's gotchi. It's really just, it'll be on the Merkle tree, so only a certain number of specific gotchis will be receiving the XP. But anyone can actually claim the XP for all the gotchis if they wanted to. And that XP would go to the correct gotchi. Cool. So nice. That's all we have from our side for this week.
Awesome. Hardcore, you're up on stage. Give it a shot.
Showtime.
Uh-oh. I saw this yesterday. This happened to me. I don't know if you're speaking and it's not coming through. If that is the case, just drop it into the Discord stage chat. If that is the case, just do a hard refresh of Discord, because that's what worked for me yesterday. Yeah, in terms of the, I guess with the XP, if I have oh, there we go. He has a screen up. If I have a bunch of gotchis in my wallet and I go to claim, will I get to choose which gotchis? Like, when I say many gotchis, I mean from rentals. If I have 180 gotchis in my wallet because I've been renting, will that basically ask me to pay the gas for all 180 of them, or can I just choose my own?
We'll probably have it as like a UI where you could select all. But yeah, there's a couple. I'm sure there'll be different versions of this UI, and this will likely be something we're going to try to open source V2 very soon. So if anyone of the community wants to help improve it, that would also be awesome, and we can probably do bounties for that. But yeah, initially it'll probably be claiming for all the gotchis in your wallet, and you might be able to deselect some if you would prefer to do that.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, that would be a nice little feature. Hardcore, give it a try again. Try speaking.
Looks like it's not working out.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, because I actually have 2 Discord instances myself, one for on my desktop, one on my laptop. But on the desktop, I can't enter the stage. Like if I try to enter the chat, it boots me from the stream Discord. So just kind of stuck here. Yeah, Hardcore is confirmed AI. I've actually been on calls with Hardcore, so I know his voice. Try signing out of the other instance. That also might help. Sign out from the other instance and then refresh this instance. Like I'm on Mac, so Command R will refresh Discord. Well, I guess while we wait, I'll proceed with the next. I guess Dr. Wagner's up here, and you do have a time crunch. So if you want to talk about the Forge, go for it.
Yeah, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, coming in loud and clear.
Great. So a couple days ago, I think 2 days ago, I put up a Forge 2.0 proposal discussion. This has been a long time in process as we've been taking feedback from the community. We met with Pixelcraft this week to talk about some of the things we're hoping to achieve and then integrate that feedback. And just kind of wanted to go through our hopeful plans with the community, trying to solicit even more feedback. So before a SIG prop went up, we try to capture what the community wants. So basically the big changes, asking for a 3-month period to work for the DAO instead of 6 months, which was the prior proposal. And over that time, making sure we get the full geodes released is going to happen regardless to get geodes out. But our big focus for this is going to be user interface, user experience upgrades. I think there's definitely some opportunities from the Forge UI to continue to improve it, a lot of educational opportunity. I think one of the barriers to our ecosystem is its complexity, and a good UI UX can hopefully break down and overcome those barriers and help us feel more accessible to people exploring our project, not just the Forge, but in general. And part of that UI UX experience, we want to fully import the dressing room, and to do so in a way that's kind of gotchified and using like the Forge UI type experience, where we would have like a new NPC. There would be like an actual dressing room, like a full art and design that goes into this. Like we all love gotchi decks, but let's like gotchify the dressing room, and then integrate a lot of education into like what these things are, like what wearables are, like what your rarity farming like earnings would be or would have been for all time, what your in-game stats would be from a singular accessible user interface. And I think that's going to be the big thing that we want to take on, and would have Diddley and Oliver doing that from the dev and art side and UI. But other things that we want to work on is really understanding what we can do from a schematics perspective. Our majority of feedback to us has been more schematics. When we got our community to give us feedback that we recorded, people requested schematics and a really predictable pipeline for schematics, and then having a really transparent, fair process for like what traits were chosen for those, and then ideally have community contributing to the art for those. There's some barriers with making lots of new schematics. It's a burden for the Pixelcraft team to translate new wearables to the Gotchiverse. And so we need to sit down with Pixelcraft and like really understand like how can we help that process? How can we help what in-game or Gotchiverse stats would look like? How can we like not be a burden with these, but also create content? And I think our goal is to allow for ongoing protocol content, and hopefully not to be limited by applications of protocol content, whether that's how we choose to implement things in the Gotchiverse or another game that's built on top of the protocol. I'm hoping that like implementation strategies don't limit what we can do from the protocol side, but we need to work together to figure that out. So that's going to be a fair bit of work. Other things that we are hoping to do is like really evolve some concepts for like what backgrounds look like, what wearable skins would be if we were going to, if you have your wearable and you could get a new rare like skin for it, how we would execute that. And these need a lot of thought and design, and we would look at what those proposals look like and get a really polished version up in front of the DAO and then start working on execution. Other thing that we would like to work on is getting the respec potions completely done and airdropped. And then whatever, I guess, else comes up from the DAO perspective that we can like help with and execute if there is bandwidth for it. So I think those are the big things that we want to take on. Always interested in feedback, of course, for it. And I'm hoping to get a proposal up in front of the DAO, a second one, I guess, for consideration. So definitely open for questions and feedback. I'll check in on the comments.
Awesome. Yeah. Immaterial says, Dr. Wagme, we've done a, oops, I got to unmute my mic. Dr. Wagme, we've done a bunch of work on Glitter Raffle, and the Alchemica Task Force may want to link on that. Yeah, that might be a good conversation that you two can have. I would say, if we can at this point, would you care to go through the numbers in terms of the compensation and then your plan for the budget itself, like the bounty budget itself?
Oh, I think he got kicked off.
Yeah, Discord is killing us today. Well, we can just look at it here until Dr. Abney gets his hand raised. We can see there the execution details. Let's invite him to speak. Yep, he's up. Okay, Sarah, you're
Right,
back.
sorry.
Give it a shot.
Yep. The hospital like kicks me off of Discord every 30 minutes. So
Jeez.
yeah, so I think we do like kind of view ourselves as a possible execution layer. So like working with like the big brains that are working on Glitter and Alchemica on like what they want to do and how we can execute that without saying like this is what we want, Pixelcraft, please do it, is a big goal for us. So we would want to help execute that. We know that Oliver has worked a ton on what it means to get Glitter for raffle tickets and have a really robust like raffle system, because that's good for everybody. There's a way to engage, and that's utility for Ghost, which is like really needed. So I'm definitely open to working with that task force to help execute from the protocol side.
Awesome. Yes. So in terms of the second slide that we have here on Miro, can you go through this? Talking about the Forge team stipend, your execution details and whatnot.
Yep. So team of 4 is the same as it was for the initial Forge work. It's kind of a part-time gig for 3 of us, and then Diddley would be full-time Solidity and front end and technical lead. And the estimates are based on like basically what each of us are willing to work for to do the work. So I know it's a big ask, but like for myself, like I'm gonna like go down on my work here at the hospital and take a pretty significant pay cut to take the work on. And I wasn't willing to work for less. And I know that some of the other guys who are doing the work are in a similar situation. So I think this is what we would like to provide, and this is the price we're willing to do it for. From a revenue perspective, we made 80,000 Ghost just in schematics alone for the Forge debut. I think that's going to be a repeatable pathway for revenue to continue DAO operations and pay for the Forge team. But any feedback on that is, of course, welcome.
Yeah.
Answering the geodes. So Diddley's working really hard on the minimal viable geode right now, which is going to be just to get the legendary schematics available. It's quite a bit more complicated to have multi-tier rarity geodes from an implementation standpoint, but we're really hoping that over the next week or two, we have geodes live. We have to do some testing for that, but another priority, something I didn't mention, is that we need to refill the geode pool with some schematics so we don't rug our geode holders. And we would prioritize the cores that were sold that didn't have a matching schematic. Those would be the new schematics that fill the geode pool. We're really hoping to continue to deliver value to geodes, which is a really fun way to support the overall wearable floor and protocol engagement.
Excellent. There's a comment from Gotchinomics. Let me just scroll back up because it is dropped. With the plan already closed and clear deliverables, 20 hours per week for full 3 months seem overestimated in my humble opinion. That's Gotchinomics, not me, of course.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback. I think at this point I understand pretty well what's involved in the work, like how much time I'm willing to put in. I put in a lot of work for a lot of time to this project, and to execute on all those things, like that's the amount of time I would put in and do. So I kind of want to a little bit under promise and over deliver. And that's why there is like the list of like the other things that I hope to do. Those future project outlines are going to be tackled, and then executing things like the Alchemica and Glitter Task Force. So I think there's no lack of work that needs to be done, and we are willing to take on work up to this many hours to do it.
Excellent, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions, or Coder Dan, do you have any feedback for this proposal?
We gave the Forge team our feedback in our call we had with them, and they used that feedback to create this proposal. So we don't have any more specific feedback at the moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think just one kind of thing I want to leave with is like, we definitely view our goal to add value to protocol asset holders. And I think that that's like one of the many goals like Pixelcraft has, for example, but I think there's a huge focus there on like, how do we get new users? How do we generate revenue? And like, we want to like get value to protocol asset holders. And I think we're a dedicated team that wants to do that. And I think that can fill a little bit of a gap that we have in this space as a whole, but maybe in our project too, and definitely want to try to deliver as much value as possible. And it's helpful to hear from the community, like what value looks like to you guys. One of the things I was thinking about was doing a temperature check sig prop for where you would like to see value accrued. So as we design mechanics, as we talk about these things, should we try to get value into Ghost? Should it try to be in the gotchis, in the wearable market, in Alchemica, and Glitter? We have so many different assets. So I would, if you guys think a sig prop, like a temp check would be helpful, so we can prioritize and triage like where we should accrue value. I think that could be a good idea, but appreciate feedback on that too.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll just read some of the comments we have from Quincy. He says, but the increase of schematics have flooded the market, and now we have to come up with ways to really utilize them, or their value is really nothing. Mikey J responds, part of the value is that they incentivize smelting, which is deflationary to alloy and supports the value of wearables. Having greater variety of aesthetics and traits also adds value to the wearables market overall. It's not just about the price of the schematic. More variety over more value leads to more value for wearables.
Yep, and I think there's going to be additional utility for schematics too, right? Like you could, we need loot in the world eventually, right? So how can we take those schematics that people have in their wallet that aren't being used and get them as like loot in the Gotchiverse or reward for engagement? And I think I'm definitely interested in developing those mechanics, but I think gameplay needs to develop a little bit more before we kind of create those utility sinks for schematics when we have all the other protocol assets that need some love too. Like right now we've burnt around like 40,000 ghosts worth of alloy, and that's been going towards supporting the wearables market. So I think having this like intentionally diluted schematic is okay because the benefits outweigh the cons there.
Okay, we have a question from Bearded. It's there's discussion of improving the Aavegotchi.com UI/UX. Would like to hear from Coder Dan and Dr. Wagney where they see the responsibility for UI, as PC presumably employs multiple UI/UX folks. Coder Dan, can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. I would say generally for Aavegotchi.com and now the new V2 that we're getting close to open sourcing, we've been spearheading all the UI UX for that. The only exception at the moment is the Forge. We generally let them do what they wanted to do with that. I think it turned out pretty well. Although there are some things like responsiveness and just general layout that need to be improved on that. So it's going to be more of an issue as we get into the open source version of V2, where people are going to be able to contribute to it. And I think there's really two types of contributions. We will have, some of them will be where we have a UI already and we basically have someone build it. And that could be like through a bounty. Or the other type would be someone has something that they want to build and they basically make a PR to the repo and we could accept that with their UI, or we might request some changes. So I don't see that it's 100% Pixelcraft's responsibility, and it's not 100% on the person making the change or the request. It's going to be a little bit of both, I think. But we are, once we open source it, we are going to have more. Some of our UI designers will be kind of helping out those that are making PRs to the repo, making sure that it fits the standards that we currently already have.
And piggybacking on that a little bit, I think, ideally we get to a place where Pixelcraft is, crushing the Gotchiverse and the other games and Gotchi Guardians. And like, I think we have some responsibility as the protocol and with our war chest to develop a good user interface too. I think like, as we think about what we are as protocol assets and as an NFT project, there's opportunity there to have a better user interface and user experience. And that's kind of what we're hoping to deliver with both improvements to the Forge, but also to the dressing room.
We have a comment from Bearded to you. What are the improvements needed in the Forge UI and a different dressing room than Gotchi decks? Just trying to figure out how this proposal requires hiring multiple people at $200,000 to $300,000 a year salaries.
I think I'm not a UI UX tech expert. I think responsiveness is one of the things, like Dan mentioned. There's a huge educational gap for like what these things are, like what they're doing, and the complexity chasm is pretty enormous. And I think our best way to bridge that is going to be through really good user interface and user experience, where instead of like having to go to the 20 different resources that exist to learn how things work, it's going to be built into the user interface. And that's going to take a ton of work to do from people that are intimately familiar with the project and have the expertise to deliver it. And I don't think there's a huge crew of people that can do that.
Okay. Unless there are any other questions or comments, Coder Dan, should we move on to the next subject?
I'm just gonna see if let the I do see some people typing here. If they have any final comments on that topic. Generally, UI UX is it's an ongoing process. It never really finishes, and it's a process that is easy to spend a ton of resources and basically just blow a lot of time and money on something like that. So it is something we need to be careful. You guys have obviously seen with V2, it took us way longer, and we're still not even at parity with V1 yet. But it's very easy to get lost and kind of go into a hole with that kind of thing. So it is good for the DAO to be cautious on this kind of initiative.
Bearded is asked if there are any metrics on daily active users of the Forge at this point. Do we know if there's any data that we can glean from the activities? I know that we've seen the charts. I think Hardcore dropped them in earlier where it shows like alloy burn so far, essence burn, that kind of stuff. Or not essence burn, but like the creation of essence. Do we have numbers that we can share in line with the number of users actually using this feature?
I can work on that. I don't have them accessible right now.
I remember you guys were saying that was it Sudeep was working on, was that for the Forge with some numbers on like a subgraph for that?
Yep, I think our subgraph is done, or mostly done, and then we just need to translate that into like a user interface, and that would be part of what we would be delivering. I think we've had around 300 individual people use the Forge mechanic, but let me work on getting like full stats.
Okay, if you get that subgraph live, it'd be great to share that around so people can start playing with it. We'll also add it to our subgraphs board.
For sure, if that's part of what we want to do.
Awesome, thank you. Unless there's anything else, would you like to move on at this point, Coder Dan?
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, Hardcore, I see that you're back up here. Do you want to try your mic and screen share? Ooh, I'm not certain it's working. I guess we'll move on. I'm going to go based off of this. The next subject we're going to be jumping into is, I guess, wearable guild channeling 2.0. I can give this a quick read. This solves the following issues. We do not have a method for distributing crest. Oh, let me make sure that you guys are looking at the right thing on this side. There we go. This solves the following issues. We do not have a method for distributing crests. Unspecified and inflationary Alchemica emissions lead to ruin. There is a lack of community activities in the verse. We were promised wearables channeling. Schematics have unchecked inflation, and many are not holding value. The solution in one sentence: 1 week vested glitter acceleratable staking of schematics to win crests, to be used in a 24-hour window of first come, first served capped guild channeling emissions starting during the hangout. The benefits stated here are enough lodges to stake every schematic 125 L9s over 100% of the current circulated supply of Alchemica. Schematics will gain value, alloy will deflate, glitter will be spent in large quantities. And community spirit and competition will moon. Let's see if there are any other slides in this one. Nope, this is something different. Okay, yeah. So hardcore, I would ask you to come up and actually speak to this because I'm not an expert. We've had a couple conversations, well, one conversation so far about this wearable guild channeling in the Glitter Alchemica Task Force. There's a summary video, but that has not been released publicly yet. We're waiting to start these conversations before we start releasing more of these videos. So if you could jump in and comment, I can read your comments and see if you've said anything. Still not working.
Is there a forum post for this? Any information that people can read up on?
Hope he says he's going to rejoin. I do not know of a forum post at this point. I know that in the Glitter Alchemica spending or task force Discord, let me just invite Hardcore up, that there is open channels specific to this topic. So there's a ton of conversation going on there. Hardcore, are you able to speak?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank God.
All right. So yeah, what was the question there?
Is there a forum post currently?
Oh no, there's no post yet. There's just the endless rants in the other Discord. It's a big enough concept where I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to spend a week or so modeling stuff to get you actual numbers so I can show you how it actually plays out. Like I can run scenarios and I know how it plays out, but it's gonna take me about a week to get a whole bunch of spreadsheets together for it. But I just wanted to introduce the kind of the basic concept today.
Is this topic appropriate? If there's no written information, no one that's not in the Alchemica Glitter Economic Task Force Discord has even seen this topic yet.
No, that is where it's from.
Yeah, but I mean, shouldn't we have like a forum post before we bring it to the full DAO call? Not a SIG prop, but just like something that people can read up on.
Fine. That's fine. I am not in a hurry here.
Okay, it's just hard to parse information if you're hearing it for the first time and react to it in real time. It's better to have it written out with that so people can like clearly digest it first before we discuss it.
Actually, my hope was to notify people that maybe they should go back and read that stuff because in the process of trying to come up with an infographic for it, I saw that the actual original information was, 5 pages long and a bunch of formulas. So basically, people should go back and look at the Bible, and then next week I'm going to have a thread and charts and stuff. But if you don't remember the back material on lodges and channeling, it's going to go over your head.
Yeah, I think then
it's been a year
to have a summary. Yeah. I think we should have a summary of this topic before we talk about it on the call. Otherwise,
yeah, no, this is just that's tired.
Okay.
This is definitely big though. I like the math I've done shows it uses up all of the ALK we've got in circulation plus another 40% if everyone was to act perfectly and max their stuff out.
Yeah, it sounds. I know there was a lot of discussion about the guild channeling before, and we're definitely ready to support something like that in the Gotchiverse if there's some strong proposals.
Yeah, the problem we got stuck on was how do we distribute them? And then, we have the forge, and the only problem with the forge, which is not really a problem, but it's a thing, is that the schematics endlessly inflate, and this closes that whole loop.
Mm-hmm.
It creates a secondary market for a secondary market for a hodl, and then you have competitive hodling.
Nice. Well, could we revisit this like next week?
Yeah, absolutely.
A written forum post.
I think Aavegotchi is also here with the kinship one. I'm not sure if he was going to present that or not.
Yeah, that one does have a ton of discussion. I've seen Channel Alchemica by Burning Kinship revised, right?
Yeah. He goes first if he's here. Otherwise, anybody else is fine. But he usually has to go fast too, like Dr. Wagme does.
Yeah, I guess
Cool.
if Cryptogotchi is not here or Al for the kinship burn discussion, then we should probably move on to the next slide, which I believe is OUSD, if I'm not mistaken. Do we have anybody in the house that is supposed to be speaking on behalf of OUSD, or Dr. Wagner, will you be discussing that specifically?
Yeah, we can invite Pete up.
Yeah,
If you can find him. He's the one who put together the proposal. And I met with him in Denver, and they have a product on Ethereum to basically generate passive yield using stablecoin yield farming strategies. I think it's an option for us to consider as we consider like many different options for treasury management. So thinking seriously about it as a DAO is important. I'm gonna have to hand over to Slagathor, the Mammoth King, and go back to work. But please DM me if there's questions or concerns.
Nice.
Hey guys,
Thanks,
can you hear
Doc.
me all right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys, for letting me come up to the stage here and speak a bit. And thanks, Doctor, who I see just dropped off, for posting the proposal for us to the forum. I would have done it myself, but as a newer forum user, I don't think I had the trust level to include all the links that we wanted to, because there were a lot of links on there. But yeah, so we've got a bit of time. I'm happy to run through the proposal again and answer any questions that anyone in the community might have about the proposal. I can also share my screen if that would be helpful.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. One moment. All right, so you guys can see this, correct?
Yep.
Making sure. Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, I guess I can just give a bit of a background on Origin, because it sounded like from some of the comments in the proposal and some of the chat from last week that people weren't really familiar with Origin, and that's okay. I mean, there's thousands of projects in this space, as I'm sure everyone knows. So Origin is not a new project. We have been around for a long time, since 2017. We launched as a completely different protocol than we are now. We initially launched as a place to really just sell anything online in a decentralized fashion. We called it like a decentralized Shopify or decentralized eBay, and that's what it was for the first year. And it wasn't until we realized what people would actually do with a product like that we realized that we had to pivot. It was people started selling things that they should not be selling on the typical internet, stuff that you might find on the Silk Road. So that's when we decided we had to make a pivot. And around the same time, our founders, who are pretty good friends with the DJ Blau, we're chatting with him about helping him launch his new album. And we decided to do a trial run and launch the album as an NFT. And it turned out to be the largest NFT music sale at the time, and for a long time, actually. It might still even be. But that was all we needed to decide on how to pivot. And so we had that successful sale, and we made the pivot from being a decentralized eBay to a launch pad for NFT marketplaces. And so since that pivot, we have done some of the largest marketplace launches for NFTs in the world, like by far. We did the Pudgy Penguins NFTs, which I see there's one in the audience here, so that's awesome that there's a fan. We did the Paris Hilton NFTs. We did the SpaceX NFTs. We had the Charlie Bit My Finger NFT. We had the first real estate sale on the blockchain, which was pretty cool. So we've done a lot over the years, and then it wasn't until 2020 that we launched the Origin Dollar. And the whole reason that it was launched in the first place was because our founders were really into yield farming. They loved being able to deposit into Aave and collect the yield and then pull out and move it into Compound or somewhere else if the yield was ever, paying more on a different platform. But they hated having to pay the gas every time. And shortly after DeFi kicked off around 2020, the gas prices of Ethereum were skyrocketing, and founders hated having to pay that fee every single time. And that's where the idea for the Origin Dollar came, right? Like, why wasn't there a product to do all that for them, to chase the highest yield without having to manage a position? And so that's where the Origin Dollar came from, which is just OUSD.com, by the way. And like the proposal says, if you haven't read it already, it is a stable coin that earns yield while sitting in your wallet. As long as it's in a yield generating wallet, you don't have to do anything. It's completely automated for how the yield strategies are managed. And it is backed 1-to-1 by USDC, USDT, and DAI, which if you're on the OUSD.com website, you can just kind of scroll down and see exactly that breakdown, because this does update in real time, which is nice. The TVL is a bit lower than it was just not even a few weeks ago. We think a lot of that has to do with the DPEG on the weekend of the 10th, which I'm happy to get into as well. Anyway, so breaking down the strategies themselves. So the entire all the strategies behind the Origin Dollar are decentralized, and they've all gone through a voting process. So it's the OUSD DAO that has decided on the exact strategies to use, and anyone can propose a new strategy, by the way. But it's a pretty rigorous process to get a strategy through all our due diligence, because there's multiple levels of internal due diligence as well as external. We do multiple audits by Open Zeppelin, who we now have on retainer. But the strategies that have made it through so far can all be seen on the analytics page, which is analytics.ousd.com. And this is what's voted on every single week. So once per week on our snapshot page, and soon on our governance page, which will just be, I think, governance.ousd.com. It's voted on how to deploy the collateral behind the Origin Dollar. So right now is the 34 million. At the peak, it was almost 300 million just over a year ago. And just a few weeks ago, it was about 60 million. But this is where it is right now. At the moment, the majority of it is going into Morpho, and then it's dispersed by however the rest of the votes went. So it looks like right now there's nothing going into Compound and there's nothing going into Convex. But come Tuesday, this could be completely different. And a lot of it just depends on what the community feels is the best yield option for that week, or what may even be the safest. For those who aren't familiar with Morpho, it's a pretty unique protocol that also lends through to Aave and Compound, but it also has the ability to match lenders and borrowers directly, which is pretty cool, because when that happens, the yield is paying more for the lenders and is cheaper for the borrowers. So that's always good when that happens. What else? So to actually obtain the Origin Dollar is quite simple. We built out an aggregator on just apps.ousd.com, which is also coming from this button right here. Essentially, you would just kind of input the amount that you are looking to convert. So in this case, I'll just put like actually I can put even like the proposed 2 million in, and it will decide on the best way to route it. So right now it's choosing to go through the vaults, which means that we'll be most likely minting it. But if the amount were lower, it might route it through Curve, which is where the most on-chain liquidity is currently sitting, or Uniswap, I guess, depending on whatever is the best price is how it would route it. But our Curve pool does have a decent amount of liquidity right now. And then as soon as that swap is made into the Origin Dollar, the yield starts generating pretty much the same day. So back on the analytics page, if you click this button right here, it drills it down into the daily yield for pretty much every single day in the last 3 months. So it's been trending up again lately, which is nice. So just about 5%. Some days a little bit more, like on the 23rd, and some days a little bit less, like the 21st. And some days it's fantastic, like on the 11th, where we get almost 200%. But a good chunk of this came from those exiting the origin dollar on the week of the 10th. There is a small exit fee when you choose to choose to exit through the origin dollar app, but that fee does not go to origin as profit. That goes to the OUSD holders, and it was the holders they helped through that weekend that really made some good money, which was nice. Are there any questions, by the way, since I've been talking? I know there's a chat here. I haven't been monitoring it.
Yeah, my question would be, how much is the exit fee?
It's 25 bips, but it's the curve pool is usually pretty well funded. So, which is why I stuck this in here earlier. So I think this would be maybe a few days worth of yield that you pay at this rate. But 25 bips, and then also we have centralized exchanges that we have the origin dollar listed on, and then also our market makers are always an option. I think at the proposed $2 million number, that's probably high enough to route it through one of the market makers if that were to get us a better rate for you guys.
Thank you for that information. I have a question from Hardcore saying, so is it a security?
That's a good question. We have all the legal opinions necessary to confidently state that we are not a security. I am not a lawyer, but we have multiple legal opinions from multiple jurisdictions, including the U.S. and Singapore and the Cayman Islands.
Yeah. I guess one of my questions would be, and then I'll bring up Michael J's comment that he has there, is how did you and your team react to the depegging of DAI and USDC a couple weeks ago? We saw that big wick on March 11th for APY, that daily APY, and that, USDC DAI, that represents 2/3 of your collateral. So just, I guess, any information you can give us on that experience and how it affected the protocol, and any new changes you might have implemented going forward for any potential depegs, because we as a DAO just swapped out. We're swapping out a whole bunch of the DAI. We ended our bonding curve because of our worry that DAI is going to face some regulatory risk and or just blacklisting by Circle. So any insights on those issues would be great.
Yeah, so I'll definitely run through this again. I did include a section in the proposal actually that covers pretty much what I'm about to explain. It was definitely a scary weekend for everyone. I mean, including us, because this was a real stress test for the origin dollar. But essentially, what happened with the origin dollar was since it is backed 2/3 by DAI and USDC. The peg for the origin dollar to $1 did drop below $1 for a few hours. It was about 17 hours, so it didn't drop for as long as USDC and DAI, and it didn't drop nearly as low, which was nice. It was actually the 1/3 backing by Tether that helped us from falling that low, and we have a very good security measure in place that I think I included on the proposal here. Maybe in the comments. Right here. So OIP4, it disables minting of any depegged assets if the price of those assets falls below 0.998, I believe is the number. Yeah, right here. So when DAI and USDC did fall below that threshold, it shut off minting for new origin dollars. So users are not able to take the depegged assets and then go and get $1 worth of the origin dollar, at least through our app, which was good. So that protected us and the origin dollar holders. What some users did do, and this is really what led to a good chunk of the yield, was so we were protected on the app from the depeg, from users coming in with the cheaper USDC and DAI, but DEXs had depegged depegged OUSD. So what some users were doing was they were taking their DAI and the USDC and swapping into the origin dollar, and then they were taking it to the app, and they were they were taking their origin dollar and choosing the option for the mix. And the mix will sometimes give you a better rate than if you were to pick any individual asset to exit. But when choosing the mix, they were getting the depegged DAI and the depegged USDC, but pegged USDT. And so it was a bit of an arbitrage opportunity for them because the USDT was stable and the other two were not. So they were choosing to swap for that mix, and then they were taking the USDC and the DAI and going back to the DEX and doing the whole process again. And some people did that a lot and were able to make some money from that. But every single time they swapped out for this mix, they were paying that exit fee, and they were paying that fee a lot, which is how we were able to get such a high number here. This plus the fact that lending USDT on Aave and other platforms was quite profitable. I mean, the raw yield on that day is the 84% here. So this is what you would have gotten if you lent USDT on your own to Aave. But it's the additional boost from the exit fees, and also the fact that there is a large portion of OUSD that is not yield generating, and that's this entire column here, and that non-yield generating token is still backed one-to-one by USDT and the other two. And so that yield is still being dispersed, just not to this column. Instead, that yield goes to this column, which also leads to that boost here. That's this extra boost. So all in all, it was the exit fee mixed with the much more profitable lending of USDT that led to this high percentage. But all the holders were protected from OIP4, from having someone come in and mint the origin dollar your app with depegged assets, because it was impossible. And it worked out very well in the end for everyone. All those that held through the weekend made a lot of money, actually, especially, and this is a great example. Popcorn DAO is the first project that actually was able to take a portion of their treasury and convert it into the origin dollar. Is this going to work if I just drop this? Oh, 1 second. If I move this over here, will this work? Are you guys able to see this wallet address here?
Yes, we are.
Okay, cool. So then you'll probably be able to see this one too. Okay, so 31 days ago, Popcorn DAO, which is like a sort of like a social impact DAO, if you guys aren't familiar. I think it's just popcorn.network is their platform. But we had a proposal pass with them for just pretty close to the same amount, just over $2 million. Like I said, just about a month ago, and we can see at their analytics page, if you can put the wallet address up here. They made a lot of money in the last month, and a good chunk of this came from that weekend of the 10th. I think about half of this actually came from that weekend. So they were very happy, and we're glad that they held through the weekend as well. Yeah, so to answer your question again, no futuristic. We were back at peg in 17 hours. So it was a quick turnaround for us.
Awesome. Thank you for your answer. Go ahead and put it in.
Yeah, could you maybe talk about what are some of the strategies that you have planned for the future to continue increasing the yield, and also just to capture more TVL of the market? I'm looking at the DeFi Llama here. You're currently about 35 million, which is obviously the entire TVL for the sector is down, but your peak was around 300 million, and now it's 31, so, or 35. What are some of the, I guess, roadmap or plans that you guys have to continue kind of gaining market share for this platform?
Yeah, so that's a great question. There's a lot happening at the same time. So I can drop this in here now. We have a Uniswap strategy that's coming. You guys can see this, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, so this passed our initial due diligence, and so this will be coming soon. I think last I was told it was going to be sometime in April, but we're definitely going to be rolling this out. I can drop this link in here if anyone's interested. There we go. But this is going to be the next strategy, most likely, that's going to pop up on the analytics page. We'll definitely be posting about it on our socials when this actually happens, when it's implemented. But we're doing all the due diligence now and finding out the best ways to earn the highest yield in the safest way. Because one of the reasons why we haven't rolled out so many strategies lately is because we care more about security over new yield strategies and even getting the highest yield. So we're making sure that first it's safe, and then second it's safe, and third it's safe, and then fourth that we can make some money on it. So this is what's coming probably the soonest. And then on top of that, there are, so I don't know if I can drop, I'll drop all these in together if I can hold shift here. There's 5 other proposals happening right now, all at the same time with the origin dollar. So 2 of them are treasury investments. So one of them is with Rook, and I'm happy to share these links as well if it's helpful. When we've spoken with these guys a whole bunch of times, it's been a proposal that's been in the works since October, pretty much. But these guys seem to really appreciate the proposal, and it has not yet made it to the next stage, which is a snapshot vote. Last I heard, they're a bit backlogged on their proposals. But that's going to be happening pretty soon. So this will definitely lead to an increase in the TVL. We just submitted the SushiSwap one last week, a day before their post on the SEC issues. So this one, maybe I'll just take off for now because that was a very unfortunate timing. But then we've got 3 other things also that we assume will lead to the increase in TVL. So we've got 3 different markets that are hopefully coming. Aave and Ondo, which is Flux, and then DForce for lending and borrowing the origin dollar. And that will be a very unique market that doesn't really exist anywhere else. And if you imagine that you could theoretically lend another asset like, I don't know, DAI or USDC to a platform like Aave, and then borrow the origin dollar. And if the cost to borrow is lower than the amount that origin dollar is paying on that day, then that's an immediate profit right there into your wallet. So that's something we're definitely looking forward to. It's also been a thought for a long time that we've wanted to roll out, and I don't know why we didn't start that process until this year. But yeah, I authored all of these proposals as well. I'm happy to answer any questions on these. But the DForce and the Ondo and the Aave are pretty much all the same. And then the Rook one is also pretty similar to the proposal that I submitted for Aavegotchi.
What would the effect on TVL be when you start adding in OUSD lending, do you think?
That's a really good question. So I'm finding it a little bit hard to model out because we don't know how people are going to react to it. Like, I think initially people aren't going to realize like the power that you have with OUSD lending, but once maybe with some Medium posts or YouTube videos where we describe like what can actually be done with that, maybe people will start to realize that. And then what I imagine is going to happen is people will start immediately borrowing the origin dollar, which will raise the cost to borrow, which will then increase the other side of the market, the lending side, which will cause hopefully some origin dollar current holders to deposit, which would then lower the cost of borrowing, or people will realize that you can make money by borrowing it, and then everyone will ape in to borrow it, and then it'll shoot the price up to borrow, and people will start paying back their loan because it no longer becomes profitable. So it's really hard to tell. We're definitely going to be seeding the market for at least a few days to start, just so that there's some tokens available to borrow in the first place. But yeah, that's a tough question to answer. But I can tell you that
Sure.
when this Rook proposal goes through, and hopefully that Sushi one, if everything gets figured out, and the TVL goes back to numbers that like they used to be, that does not actually really diminish the yield that you can generate with the origin dollar, which is nice. So if I just pull this up again, OGV, if you checked out like on that day when we were the highest, which was right about the end of December in 2021, if we compare that to the yield that we were able to pay at that time, we're still paying a pretty decent yield, over 5%. We have actually we were able to pay a higher yield at 300 million in TVL than we were at 30 million in TVL.
Makes
so,
sense.
so yeah, so we can definitely scale. That is not a problem.
What is the so you guys have this obviously a lot of governance. OGV, that's just a governance token, and you have the VOGV.
Yeah, that's so OGV is a governance token. It's pretty cheap right now if anyone's interested in purchasing some. But that is what you use to vote on the allocation vote. I got way too many links here. So I'll open up one of the allocation votes too. That would be this one. So this is a great example of last week's, in which Morpho got the majority of the votes. But in order to vote on these, you do need to stake it. So that's all done through this platform, which is governance.40c.com. You get some pretty decent yield by staking it. And you can choose to lock it up for anywhere from a week to 4 years. But as soon as you lock it for the VE version, you'll begin earning the staking rewards, and then you'll also be able to vote with that VE OGV token. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention earlier is that 10% of the yield that we generate, so 10% of all the yield that we get from this amount right here, 10% of that is taken off the top, and that is used to purchase back the OGV token from the open market, which is what's provided to the OGV stakers. So as the yield increases for OUSD holders, it also increases for the OGV stakers. But that 10% taken off the top is already baked into this number, so don't even worry about it.
So for the governance, there's no governance for holding OUSD. It's just holding OGV.
Correct. So OGV is the token to govern how to use the origin dollar, like what to do with this almost $35 million. But if you wanted to just earn the yield, all you have to do is hold the OUSD token in your wallet or Gnosis Safe, because we also have it available through Gnosis Safe as one of their app. But yeah, there's no need to participate if you guys don't want to. But it is also open for anyone to participate in.
But the strategies are not governed by OGV, right?
So it's no. So these are all the whitelisted strategies that have made it through our due diligence since launch. There's actually there were a couple more that we removed because we thought that they weren't in line with what we wanted in terms of security. So anyone can actually propose to add a new strategy, but it's not a very easy process to do so. I mean, sorry, it's an easy process to propose it. It's not an easy process to have it actually pass. So like I said earlier, we've got multiple levels of due diligence with, actually, I don't think I added this part. We have multiple engineers reviewing all the code. There are time locks in check for when we do change the code and make updates to it. So we do internal audits. We also have Open Zeppelin reviewing our new updates, I think quarterly now, and our latest audit is happening as we speak. We're also reviewing the exploits of other protocols to make sure that what what happens if with other protocols doesn't happen with our contracts. You know, we're trying to be as proactive as possible to make sure that no one is losing money at all, which is good. But like I said, anyone can make a proposal to add a new strategy, but it's about a 3-month process if it's even a strategy that we think passes our due diligence, because we also wait 90 days after new protocols launch before we even start considering them for a strategy. Yeah, it's a long process, but anyone can go ahead and make the proposal. I think it's just 10 million OGV on our snapshot is what's needed, which is like, I don't know, like $50 last I checked or something like that. It's not very much. I guess I have enough in this wallet, but yeah. So anyone can make the proposal. I mean, ideally, what we'd like to see is some more voting going on in the weekly votes, because a lot of it is just the larger holders that choose to participate, which is a lot of the core team and the OUSD investors. But it is open for anyone to participate in.
Great, thanks for that overview.
Any other questions while I'm on here?
I'm looking at the chat here.
Trying to catch up on all these messages.
Yeah, a lot of comments. I think the overarching comment that I want to go back to, I can't even, it's all the way back in this thread. Let me see if I can find it. Was from Mikey J, talking about keeping our diversification. Okay, yeah. I've said this a number of times before, but I am a fan of keeping our treasury as vanilla as possible. Our ultimate win is investing in building the best decentralized community-driven game development ecosystem. I'm wary of jeopardizing that mission by introducing counterparty and smart contract risk in exchange for boosted yield.
So yeah, I mean that's a good thought. Actually, I break down pretty much how we're handling every single risk in the proposal. In terms of counterparty yield, counterparty risk. That's the whole decentralized portion of the voting behind the Origin dollar comes into play. So the Origin team actually doesn't even control the contracts for moving these around. And I should probably share the link from our docs for this. But we have a handful of people that control I think actually it must be 9. I think it's 9 people controlling a multi-sig that have the power to move the funds between these strategies, and we call them the strategists. I don't even know who those people are, and I don't think they're going to tell me as a security precaution. But those people are the ones in charge, who I guess you would maybe consider the counterparty risk. They do not have the power to do anything except move funds between these strategies. So if they wanted to, they would not be able to remove the funds back directly to their wallet. It has to stick within one of these strategies. They do have the ability to take emergency action, though, which they did on the weekend of the 10th. And during that weekend, they pretty much moved everything out of the curve strategy into one of the other Aave strategies. But typically they don't do that. They stick to the weekly allocation vote. So we're pretty confident that we handle the risk with counterparty with the counterparty risk. And then in terms of smart contract risk, I mean, yeah, that's definitely one that I guess Aavegotchi community and team needs to be aware of, since everything with the Origin dollar is built on smart contracts. And actually all of this is available to look into just on our analytics page. And also in our docs, we have a contract registry. But all the lending that goes to these strategies is done through the smart contracts. And each one of them can be accessed through this little button right here if you want to open up any individual strategy. We think we handle it pretty well, because I mean we are one of the most heavily audited protocols I've ever seen, and I spend a lot of time in white papers and docs and exploring different protocols. So we're pretty confident in the code we've written. I mean, a large. I think I mentioned this in the proposal too, but a large amount of OUSD tokens in circulation right now are held by Origin Dollar employees. So we definitely have skin in the game too, and we're pretty confident with the code we've written. Since finishing our first audit, I don't think there has been a single dollar lost for anyone, which is always nice to say.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. Actually, we have a comment and question from Light Piglet. Can you speak to your 2020 protocol hack and how you guys would handle such a situation in the event it happened again?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this all happened years before I joined, but the Origin Dollar did do like a soft launch in, I guess, 2020. And there was a hack, but we stated pretty boldly that the protocol had not finished its first audit yet. And we warned people that there was a chance that they could lose their funds if they were to deposit into the Origin Dollar. And it turned out that there was a reentrancy bug. Apparently, it's just one line of code, actually, that caused the exploit. But we were hacked for $7 million. Again, prior to finishing our first audit. And we did reimburse every single person who lost money on that. We reimbursed them with a decent amount of OGN, which is one of the other Origin tokens. And it actually turned out that everyone that was reimbursed from losing money ended up making more money from the reimbursement than they ended up losing. So everyone ended up being pretty grateful from that in the end. So we made everyone whole, and I'm not sure what we would do in the future. I mean, ideally we would do something similar. We do our best to make everyone whole, but it's better to just be proactive and not get hacked in the first place. I hope that answers your questions, and that's probably the reason why we spend so much money on the audits and so much time and due diligence. And having multiple checks done by multiple engineers, because we know that we've been hacked in the past, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure it doesn't happen again in the future.
I appreciate that answer.
Yeah, related to that, I just have two more questions. One is, like, if in that situation it did happen, that like your current TVL would be, it probably wouldn't be the entire TVL, although it could be, but is like the Origin protocol, what's like the financial situation of the company? Is it VC invested? Kind of what round?
Oh, yeah, we're very VC invested. We've got some of the best VCs in the industry backing us. We've got Spartan Group and Pantera as our two largest investors. We've got like $100 billion treasury that behind the Origin Dollar that we don't keep public for whatever reason. I don't handle that. But we have the funds. We have more funds than the TVL right now, is the best way to put it. So I guess
do you have that, like, is there, you mentioned you don't know where that's public, but do you think it's public somewhere? Like, could that be something that people could look at and see? That's kind of the hot topic these days, right? Like being able to publicly audit the funds that protocols say they have.
Yeah, I can look into that and see what we can and can't share. I think that those assets are part of one of the non-protocol entities of Origin, like Origin Protocol Inc. or something like that, which we try and keep separate from like the OUSD protocol. So I'll have to look into that and see what we can actually share. We don't have most of our wallet addresses public, I don't think. But you can easily check one-to-one that everything else is backed with OUSD and the stable coins backing it. That one is pretty easy to check. but yeah, sorry. Unfortunately, I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that and see what.
No, I mean it's almost like two different things. One is the actual OUSD being backed by something and being able to verify that, and then the other part, it's more of like the origin protocols, treasury, and your company's finances. So I mean, I don't totally expect that to be on chain and visible to
Yeah,
anyone.
that
so
might be
sense.
something we can share like privately with Aavegotchi team. Maybe
Yeah.
on the community call. If that's all right.
Sure.
Yeah.
The other
That's
question
a little
was
more
just
sensitive.
yeah,
Go ahead.
counterparty risk. Like you look at your strategies here, and um, most of it is in like Morpho and then obviously Aave and but do you guys ever audit the other protocols that you're using like Morpho?
Oh yeah,
Or
definitely. Every single time, and that's part of the due diligence for us adding a new strategy is that we're auditing the same protocols that we're using ahead of time to make sure that there's absolutely no way that anyone can possibly lose money with the Origin dollar. It is incredibly safe. I mean, I know it's coming from working at Origin, it's a little silly for me to say this, but it truly does blow my mind, like how much work the engineers do to make sure that this protocol is safe. They are going way out of their way to do their audits on these strategies. One thing I don't actually mention that often anymore because it's almost like you don't need it is we are also available on Nexus Mutual and Insure Ace, I think is that website .io. Yeah. So this is a cool thing to always show. If this loads, yeah. Is it on here? Yeah. We are one of the few projects that have a AAA rating, which is awesome. Last I checked, there were only 4 total. Yeah. Us and USDT and Coinbase and Binance. So yeah, we are very highly rated with our security on here, and it is available as another option if you guys wanted the additional insurance for the Origin dollar. So yeah, we're on Insure Ace and Nexus Mutual. I'm trying to get us on a couple other ones as well, but I mean, honestly, it might not even be necessary.
great. Well, that's all the questions I have. Thanks for the patience in answering all of our community's questions.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me on. I'll definitely hang around for the rest of this call, and I'll be monitoring the proposal again for any other questions that might come in later. Thanks, guys.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, sir. All
Okay.
right. Yeah, no future. Thanks.
Yeah. I guess at this point, I don't think I wanted to talk about consensus, but there is no forum post, so I understand that we shouldn't have that conversation. I don't know if there's anything else on the agenda that would meet that criteria that we should talk about at this point.
So there was I guess kinship, the channel Alchemica by Burning Kinship is no one's around to discuss that at the moment.
I mean, I can give a read of the post, but this is more of a that's Al who's running that. So I would defer to him. I do think Al is around because I saw Al in the DAO discussion very recently. Let me see if I can tag him.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't tag people for some reason. I don't think that's him, but if anybody can tag him, that'd be great.
Oh, I think it is.
Oh, if Quincy's
Well,
around,
I mean,
that
it's
would.
in the.
I was gonna say if Quincy's here, he could talk about his forum post about extending the reservoir cooldown from 8 hours to 12 hours. I don't know if he's prepared for that. Well, I guess
I'm
if
just checking the proposals here.
yeah.
Oh, we've been going for 90 minutes here. Probably makes sense to wrap it up.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Coder Dan. I'm not sure what's going to happen next week for this meeting, so we'll have to kind of figure that out in the forum threads or something, because our budget runs out. I think there's a runway of I think another week or two. I'm not even 100% sure. I have to check with Hefe, and I'll do my summary stuff, but from there we're going to have to figure out how to handle this going forward. And definitely jump into the DAO discussion, or I guess a forum thread, and we'll start kicking together ideas.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Thanks so much. Yeah, it was a really pretty productive call, I think. And we'll try to make an announcement about the discourse versus Discord. Or at least have maybe kick up a conversation in the DAO forum this week about that. I think the general consensus is people prefer and are more active in Discord, but we do kind of lose that kind of visibility, I guess, being outside of Discord. So maybe there's a way we could have both, and maybe have like the conversations from Discord somehow poured over to Discourse or something. We're gonna do a little bit of research on that and see if that's possible. It would be nice to continue to have the presence of DAO.Aavegotchi.com and yet be able to be active here in the Discord. But yeah, not totally sure if that's possible at the moment.
Understandable. Al, we were asking if you want to jump up and discuss kinship channeling mechanic, if you're available. I don't know if you can do it in a concise way. You're a pretty concise guy, so I think you can. Well, I guess if not, then we'll close the meeting here. At this point, Coder Dan, thank you so much for your time, as always, every week. Friends, remember to keep yourself posted. We have a rarity farming snapshot happening on Tuesday at 2 p.m. UTC, and then we'll have our regular Aavegotchi Gotchi space on Wednesday. So keep your ear out, and have a great weekend. Enjoy your day, friends.
Cool. Thanks, friends. Peace.